Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Welcome to another Folks Talking Sports. Houston Roundball Review presents Folks Talking Sports FTS, as Mr. Andy Yanez states. Everyone, how you doing? Let's start from upper right. Andy Yanez, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Kris. Happy to be here. Another week, another dollar. What's the saying? I messed up
Well, I
the,
mean,
the
you make the
saying.
dollar. I'll make the nickel. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, there we go.
Y'all are
Nickel.
big
That
time. I'll
I
make
knew.
the nickels.
I'm not
James, how are
big
you
time.
doing, sir?
Not
From
even
the
close.
bottom right, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here as well.
And in the lower left, Mr. Willy Gibson from Ohio. How are you, sir?
All is well. How are you, gentlemen?
We're doing okay. It's going to be all guys this evening. I didn't reach out to Tamer Knight or Jayla Mason. I didn't want to contact Jayla on short notice, so I'll give her enough time before I spring it on her. So probably next week, try to get her on the show from the Daily Cougar. All right. Well, gentlemen, I'm not sure what I want to talk about first. Let's go. I'm gonna throw a curve on y'all. Who watched the fight?
Oh, yeah, that's on the curve.
Who watched the
Wilder.
Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight?
Yeah.
Will?
I did.
Yes, sir.
Andy?
I didn't get the $80. No, I haven't watched the fight.
James?
But I did. I've
Same.
caught up
Yeah,
on it.
now.
But do you know who won? You know what happened?
Yeah.
For sure, the Gypsy King one.
Okay, Will, what'd you see, man?
I was disappointed in Deontay Wilder post fight. He lost. He got put to sleep. Period.
Indeed.
He got put to sleep, and then his antics at post fight. I saw today actually. I was a Wilder fan going in, but that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth for him. And it's like, you be better, be best, if you will.
So did he, what excuse did he have this time? He didn't have the full armor weighing him down. What was the excuse this time?
Well, he hasn't spoken publicly, but I don't know who had the footage, but post fight, Fury went to his corner. Congratulate. Hey,
Right.
great fight. And Wilder just like, no love. He's like, Fury says, I got a lot of respect for you. He's like, well, I don't respect you. Like, man, this man just put you to sleep, and you don't respect him. Like, stop it. It's one thing to lose, but you got put to sleep.
Yeah, we all saw it.
Yeah.
He just has he's a sore loser.
Right.
Excuses are his way, and I don't expect sore losers. So, but that's it. Note for boxing. We have other boxing coming up this Saturday on an app. I won't plug them because they don't pay us. So, but looking forward to that fight as well. We can talk about that at some point later on. But let's talk about some basketball, fellas. Will,
Yes, sir.
would you happen to have? I'm throwing you, putting it out there if you don't. Who was the favorite to win the Big Ten basketball poll?
It's between Michigan and Purdue.
Michigan and Purdue.
Yep.
Okay. Who would you pick?
I would probably say Purdue.
All right. Fair enough. James, Andy, neither one of y'all live in Memphis. Neither one of y'all cover Memphis. Were y'all surprised that Memphis was picked second in the AAC coaches men's basketball preseason poll?
I mean, I can start, I guess. Or you want to go, Andy?
No, I was just gonna ask. Like, did I find it surprising that they were second and not first over Houston, or that they were second? That they were second over? No, I mean it's not surprising. I think what it shows right there is the respect that Kelvin Sampson and the program he's built at Houston, the respect that is being recognized by the other coaches in the American Athletic Conference. I think that's what that shows. Obviously, Memphis has the most the top recruiting class, and it seems like year in and year out there's always a lot of noise coming out of Memphis. But the past few years, they haven't been able to put it together, so they have to prove it before they earn a number one spot. That's my view.
James, what do you say?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Memphis has the highest ceiling in the American just with the talent they've got, but they've got to prove it. And Houston's been consistent under Kelvin Sampson. So I think Houston deserves that number one spot preseason because they've proven that they can win. Whereas Memphis, they've gotten talent but haven't been able to put it all together, like Andy said. So yeah, I think the coaches got it right.
So it sounds like you guys are being objective, which is kudos to all of you. Go figure. You're not fans. Let me see here. Let me pull up. These are the first and second team members. Marcus Sasser, Houston, first team. Jalen Duren, Memphis, first team. These are first team. Jalen Duren, Memphis. Landers Nolley, Memphis. Kendrick Davis, SMU. Tyson Etienne, Wichita State. Second team. Brandon Mahan, UCF. Imani Bates, Memphis. DeAndre Williams, Memphis. Jeremiah Davenport, Cincinnati. And Jalen Forbes, Tulane. So if I counted right, that's 4 players from Memphis made 2 on first team, 2 on second team. 1 player from Houston on the first team. But Houston was picked to win the conference by the coaches. What would you say, Will, was the reaction of some U of H fans?
Being picked preseason winner of the conference.
Of Memphis having 4 players on first and second team and 1 Houston player on first or second team.
Oh, we're talking fans. The fan reaction.
Yes,
the fans were hot. Yeah, the fans were hot, without question. Fans.
Andy?
Yeah, I saw someone post. I think something similar happened last year where I think they only had, I think it was Caleb Mills of all the players that were like projected to be ranked, and then at the end or to make.
Oh, Andy has your issue. Will, looks like. Okay, James, we'll go to you. James, what do you say? What do you think? Fans being fans.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Memphis has the better talent on paper, so it makes no sense just with all the athletes they've got, and like you said, all those first and second team selections compared to Houston's 1. So I mean, I've seen reactions, and Memphis fans aren't happy about it, but.
And it's back. Yeah, you're back, Andy. So go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there was this graphic or a picture that someone had posted where, like I said, I think a similar thing happened a year ago where I can't even remember off the top of my head who were the projected players that would have been on the all-conference teams. I know Caleb Mills was projected to be like the all-conference player of the year, and he only ended up playing 4 games, and the 4 players that ended up actually being on the all-conference team for Houston, Grimes, Gorham, Jarreau, and there was. I think there might have been just them 3, maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head, but like it just goes to show like these are preseason rankings. You can't take a lot of weight into them. I remember that Quentin Grimes wasn't picked on either of the 2 conference teams to begin the year last year. So, I mean,
well put.
It's left to the fans.
It's preseason poll, and this is the coaches' thoughts. We don't care. It's conversation, and this is my response to the fans, any fan, Memphis fans, U of H fans, whoever, Wichita State fans, whatever. Would you rather have your team, your favorite team, have players on preseason first, second team, and y'all finish last, or your team wins the conference and has no players on first and second team? Who cares? Do you want to win the championship of a conference, or do you want to have 4 players on a first and second team? I mean, just the reaction. I made mistakes. See, that's what I did, Will, Andy, James. I made a mistake of reading comments.
Oh.
I went down the rabbit hole. I shouldn't have done that. I went down that and I started reading comments. So advice to the youngsters on the group here, Andy, James, don't do it. Just don't do it.
Never.
Just don't do it. Don't do it. On the flip side, on women's side, and I'm going to play a clip from South Florida head coach women's basketball, Jose Fernandez. But in a second, let me recap for those who do not know the men's basketball coaches poll results. First place, Houston. And keep in mind, coaches cannot vote for their own team. That goes on the men's side and women's side. First place, Houston, 8 first place votes. Second place, Memphis, 3 first place votes. Houston got 98 points, Memphis 92 points. Third, SMU, 77 points. 4, Wichita State, 76 points. 5th, UCF, 66 points. 6, Cincinnati, 52 points. Tulsa, 7, 43 points. 8, Temple, 37 points. Tie for 9, South Florida and Tulane, each with 25 points. And then last, can I say least? East Carolina, 14 points. Okay. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I'm not sure why Kate's coming here about Silas should get fired. You know, at least spell Silas's name right if you're going to blast Silas like that. But that's on the men's side. Women's side. Well, let's real quick. Johnny Dawkins, head coach UCF men's basketball today on the day 2 of AAC men's basketball media day, said he believes that 5 teams from the American can make the NCAA men's tournament. Thoughts on that, James?
I don't buy it. I mean, I just don't think the Americans been given the same level of respect, and there's a lot more teams will have to do. And I just think the gap between the top teams versus the bottom tier teams is just too big. I don't see 5 American teams. I could see maybe 3 or 4, but not 5.
Okay, give me your 3 or 4.
Houston, Memphis, and Wichita State. If I had to choose 3.
Okay, Andy.
Can you guys hear me? It kind of looks like it's buffering a little bit. So it's going to be
a little bit buffer, but it's okay. Yeah, this could be the weather, clouds outside. It's all good.
Cold front that's supposed to come. But anyways, yeah, like James said, I think for sure you got to have Houston in for sure for like I said, just going back off their body of work, what they've been able to do in the past. I think you could pencil in Memphis. Just because of the talent that they have coming in. Again, they haven't been able to make the NCAA tournament recently, but for all intents and purposes, they should finally be able to break through that glass ceiling and make it to the tournament this year, especially the way they were able to end last season, winning the NIT tournament. And then, Wichita State, they're getting tight end back. They made the NCAA tournament last year. I think they should deserve a nod. You could certainly into consideration. What I was surprised with was the coaches picked SMU 3rd over Wichita State to finish in that conference, which I found it interesting. You look at last year, the season that SMU had, they got off to that good start. After they played Houston, really their season they really got hit hard by the COVID issues. But if you'd have to pick, I would say those 4 teams certainly would be in the mix. And then, when you have some of the other schools like UCF and Cincinnati's supposed to have a down year, but you saw the late run they were able to make in the American Athletic Conference tournament. Maybe that can carry over. But yeah, I would say pushing 5 teams might be stretching a little bit.
Now, I'll add this, just for what it's worth. UCF was picked 5th. So Coach Dawkins might have said 5 teams, including his UCF Knights as the 15th. So because they're ranked 5th in the preseason poll.
Yeah.
So that's possible. But yeah, Houston, I'm picking Memphis. It's got to be the year for them. All that talent, Larry Brown on the staff. If they don't make the tournament this year, then Penny may need to be let go. I mean, there's too much talent for them not to make the NCAA tournament. Wichita State, Tyson Etienne was the preseason player of the year for the coaches. They made it last year. It was a first 4, but I think they have a good shot. They got some younger talent coming back, got some big men on this year's squad. I think SMU got transfers incoming. They probably were close to making, but as you said, Andy, COVID, they missed so many games. their body of work was cut short. So those 4, I think, have really legit shots to make it. Houston should be a lock. Memphis, I'm saying Memphis is a lock too. I mean, this has to be the year. So I just got to do that. So, but I hope that it's more than just 2. Good to be nice to see 3 or 4 teams make it from the American, even though 2 years from now, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston will be in the Big 12 and trying to make tournament from the Big 12 conference. So we'll see about that. But yes, I want to talk about women's side real quick. Looks like Will's coming to join us. Thank you, sir. Will.
Yes, sir.
He came back just in time for some women's basketball talk. Did y'all see Game 2 of the WNBA Finals last night?
I did not.
I caught like a little bit of the end, but I was following it on my phone.
Andy?
No.
Ooh, boy, y'all some chauvinists, man. Y'all just busy dudes, man. Don't have time for women's basketball. Okay, it was a hell of a game.
I did it yesterday. We were recording the podcast for Pawd, Slama, Jama.
Okay, plug that. You and Dayon?
Yeah. Had a new episode. We discussed a little bit about the American Athletic Conference Media Day stuff and gave our season, I guess, at the bye, since the UH football team's at the bye week, who would be MVP for like offense and defense. And so check that out. Pawd, Slama, Jama, like you see it on the screen.
Okay, well, we'll talk football in a few minutes because the Cougs are 5-1. So, I mean, but the win over Tulane was a surprise because, I picked Tulane because they have a better coach to me. But anyway, women's side real quick. South Florida, heavy favorite. Everybody back. 10 first place votes, 100 points. UCF, the other first place vote because Coach Hernandez could not vote for his own team. That's South Florida. Houston Cougars, third place, 77 points. Then Tulane, 72 and fourth. Temple, 5th. Cincinnati, 6th. ECU, 7. Wichita State, 8. Tulsa, 9. SMU with new head coach Toyelle Wilson. And then Memphis, 11 with their new head coach, Coach Merriweather. Women's basketball now, fellas.
From Michigan?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. I'd throw that in Big Ten. Yeah.
Well, see, you can do that, but she started out at Prairie View first. So I've known her longer than you have, sir. So Prairie View, Baylor, Michigan, SMU. So yes, and hopefully at some point, get our schedules right. We get an interview with Coach Toyelle Wilson on the Roundball Review channel at some point soon, hopefully. But women's basketball, fellas. UConn's gone. They're in the Big East. Women's basketball in the American. ESPN is not thrilled because UConn left. Check out what Jose Fernandez, head coach of South Florida, said when I asked him yesterday, part of the media day on ESPN Plus. So you will see my shiny bald head in this clip as well. Got to give myself love. I mean, I was on ESPN Plus, a few times. But check out what Coach Fernandez said about his expectations for the conference, teams in the conference this season.
We'll go back to Kris Gardner from the Houston Roundball Review for a follow-up, please.
Coach, you kind of laid into my question. Just how competitive do you think the conference will be this year?
Repeat that question. I didn't hear.
How competitive?
You cut out a little bit about the competitive piece.
Yeah, how competitive do you believe the conference will be?
Houston returns Houston returns a really, really good team and added a Big Ten transfer. UCF's got everybody back. Got a couple transfers in. Lisa's got. I know she lost Jerkayla Jordan, but got Moon Urson coming in and signed a good class. Tanya at Temple has a really good team coming back. I think, those 5 teams are going to beat each other up when league play because we all play each other twice, right? Now, you look at the rest of the conference. You got new coaches, right? At Memphis. Memphis has I saw the rankings, but you hire a coach that's won. everywhere she's been, right? You got a new coach at Tulsa. Keitha did a very, very good job in how she recruited. Kim's teams are always going to compete, play hard, defend, get all over the place, right? Michelle Clark heard what she did at Western Kentucky, and her teams played at Cincinnati, the amount of transfers they got. So hopefully I'm not missing. I think I covered everybody in the league. I think from top to bottom, this is the best this conference has ever been.
Thanks so much,
I forgot
head
SMU.
coach.
SMU, you got it. I forgot SMU. SMU also got some transfers and returned some really good pieces, and the job Toyel and Toyel's experience.
The best top to bottom the conference has been. Will, and he tossed in Toyel there for you as well toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Huey agrees with that statement. I just got a text from another coach in the conference. Similar sentiments. Okay. South Florida, they're going to be in the tournament. UCF should make the tournament. Houston, under Coach Huey, they were close last year. He believes their team is better this year. 3 teams from the American. Women's basketball. I don't know about that. Now, James, you talk about the lack of respect for AAC men's basketball teams. What do you think about the amount of respect that the AAC post-UConn women's basketball teams have?
I mean, it's gone away completely. You saw last year with Houston, they had similar records to some teams that were 6, 7 seeds, but they didn't even get a shot in the tournament. Just because when you take out, a dynasty like UConn, people sort of forgot everyone who was in because UConn was just running it for years. So I think, there's really not much respect there. You got to win the league and get that automatic bid, and then if you're not that, then you got to put up some pretty impressive non-conference stuff and then win the majority of your conference games if you're going to have a shot, just because the American just isn't viewed as very strong by the selection committee.
Andy, what do you say?
In terms of if I think three American Athletic Conference teams is pushing it?
Yeah. Hell, 2.
Yeah, when I think it's doable, especially based off what happened last season. I mean, it seemed like from what Ron Huey said in the past that Houston had a berth. You can't say they had it clinched because they didn't make it, but had they beaten Cincinnati, had they done what they did in the conference tournament, losing to UCF, there was a really high chance, at least in Ron Huey's opinion, that they would have been in the NCAA tournament themselves. They were the first team out. So I wouldn't say it's crazy and it's not impossible. I found it funny how the USF head coach listed every team in the American Athletic Conference and mentioned something nice about them. That was a little bit funny, but I wouldn't say it's crazy. It almost happened last season. So especially like you said, with Houston, they're essentially bringing back most of their team. I think literally we went through the roster last year. Like they have like 16 teams on the active roster as of now, and only 5 of those 16 are sophomore or freshmen. Like they only have 1 true freshman coming back this season or a part of this new team. So they certainly have experience, and most of them are coming back from last year's team. So they're in a good position to make that leap.
We'll see. And ironically, I'll read this. We're going to shift to talk Rockets in just a few minutes.
Yeah, I saw that comment.
A few hours ago, the Division I Women's Basketball Committee and the Division I Women's Basketball Oversight Committee voted unanimously to advance the proposal to expand the Division I Women's Basketball Championship field from 64 to 68 teams. The proposal will now advance for consideration by the committees. A final determination is expected by mid-November. I think that's a rubber stamp. It's going to happen, and it will begin, with the 2023 tournament, the opening round would be hosted at one predetermined neutral site. Under this proposal, selection criteria for the opening round would be the same as those for men's basketball, in which the last 4 at-large teams and teams seeded 65 through 68 compete prior to the start of the first and second rounds. So basically, what do they want to call it? The
first 4.
The first 4.
First
not really the first round.
Yeah.
Because Dave Warlock at the NCAA slapped my hand a few times. Chris, it's not, he said first round. He told us that a few years ago when it first started. It's the first round. Nobody bought that. So it's the first 4. So apparently the first 4 will be coming to women's basketball beginning in 2023. Thoughts on that, Will?
It's a positive step in the right direction. I mean, we talk about equality daily. If not, we should be talking equality daily. And so for now, to have the women's tournament mirror the men's, and also heard, I'm not sure if you're going to discuss this or mention this as well, potentially having both Final Fours at the same site is something I read earlier this week as well. So
right, that's been discussed, and the women's coaches hate it. Ones I know hate it. Too much attention to the men's teams, the men's tournament. They're gonna need some convincing for it to go along with that idea. But yes, that's been proposed as part of the committee initial discussions coming from the equality and the embarrassment of the weight room and everything from this last year's women's tournament and the inequality, everything. So that's all stemming from those conversations from the summer. But yeah. Andy, what are your thoughts on women's first 4 coming to the tournament? Field at 68 for women's basketball.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it is a step in the right direction, but it doesn't feel right coming off the heels off the fiasco that happened this past spring with the inequalities in the weight room and just how bad that was. It certainly seems like the NCAA is being a lot more reactive instead of being proactive, which honestly is something that you think about it. Now they're barely going to be using the term March Madness for the women's tournament, which is absurd, something like so small that they didn't brand it. It's just crazy. Now they like I said, they're trying to play catch up, but ultimately it is a step in the right direction. Just, the NCAA, it took them far too long to come up with this.
James, I'm going to ask you this question. Did you know, then toss it out to everyone else, did you know that on the women's side, women's tournament, the teams do not get units if they reach the tournament and advance round to round, like on the men's side?
I did not know that. I mean, but it doesn't surprise me.
So yeah,
everything else we've seen.
So Will, did you know that?
I don't know that I had. No, as James said, I doesn't surprise me that they don't. But no, I don't. I did not know that.
Andy, how about you?
I did not.
I didn't know that until April, May, and I've been going to covering Final Fours 20 years. Had no idea. I just took it for granted that women's basketball teams each earn units as they progress through the tournament, like the men do. Nope. So I think that's next on the agenda that has to be proposed and accepted and all those things. But yeah, so money from the tournament. First things first, tournament that ESPN is paying them just pales. It's just minuscule compared to what CBS and Turner is paying the men's tournament. You can argue about ratings and all those things, but ESPN could be paying more for the women's tournament. And I think in the next negotiations, more people are talking about it, that they will. And then hopefully with that, the money will begin being divvied up to the teams for advancing throughout the tournament, those teams, the conferences, et cetera, to get some money from the tournament. I thought it's a no-brainer. Andy, Will, James, Brandon Thomas, Rich Blackman, I guess Tubi, going to talk some Rockets. Will, just a moment of your time, sir, to allow 3 U of H products to discuss some news that happened today last night, today, about Armani Brooks signing a 4-year deal with the Rockets, 1 year guaranteed. Other years, 2 and 3 are non-guaranteed. Team option on the 4th year. 4 years, $7.2 million. But the first year, let's say it's $1.5 million. Whatever. It's guaranteed though. Great deal for our money. So he was, kudos to colleague from the Chronicle, Jonathan Fagan, the beat writer for the Rockets with the Chronicle, asked to make Armani available to the media today. So I'm going to play you a clip from Armani post-practice today after the news of him signing the deal with the Rockets. And then I'll come back, talk about that, and then play another clip from Coach Silas about what he's seen from Armani improvement-wise this offseason.
When did you know?
Yesterday. Yeah, so, I knew like the whole two-way thing, and this morning my agent kind of called me like it's about to get converted to a deal. I was just, I didn't really know what to say at first. It kind of caught me by surprise. I'm really excited.
So you had no idea you're going from a two-way to this deal?
No. He just kind of woke up this morning and my agent called me. He texted me and said, hit me ASAP, and it got converted.
Have you had a chance to talk to Coach Sampson yet?
Not yet. I'm sure I'll talk to him pretty soon, but I haven't got a chance because I found out right before practice.
He didn't even know. So think about that. So kudos to Armani. Great form. I'm going to make a comment after Coach Silas's comment because it'll tie into my thoughts on Armani going pro when he did. But just Andy, James, Will, your thoughts on Armani? Andy, you first, getting a 4-year deal.
It worked out great for him, especially like we had mentioned before even training camp has started, where he stuck with the Rockets. We kind of questioned whether the Rockets might be the best fit for him because he didn't have a guaranteed deal coming into training camp. It's a preseason. It was essentially a prove it, exhibit 10 deal. And then, like you mentioned earlier in the week, the news broke that they had signed him to a 2-way contract. And I remember that he had won over. There's a lot of UH fans here in Houston, but of course he had won over a lot of Rocket fans just from what he showed last season with the plethora of injuries that the roster got depleted with, and the play he showed in spurts. And then even in the preseason, he had good performances throughout in the few games that they've had so far. But he's won them over. When the news broke of the 2-way deal, some of the people were complaining they wanted it to be converted into a guaranteed contract, a fully guaranteed contract. And like you said, coming out of U of H, it's good to see him. You hear this term a lot, especially this is something Nate Hinton said whenever he declared for the draft, betting on themselves, and the way Armani Brooks had to go through the G League route. I think one of the podcasts he did like earlier in the season where he, after the G League bubble, I think he was or around that time, he was preparing to go play overseas before he got the call from the Rockets to sign, just because they had suffered all the injuries. So it's good to see him, like you said, it's paid off for him, the route he took.
James, what were your thoughts when you first heard?
Yeah, I'm happy for Armani. I think it's a good deal for him. I think from the preseason, we've seen that the Rockets need 3-point shooting. That's going to be, an area that they really need. And obviously, he's proven he's a great shooter. He's done that in college, and he's done that in his time in the NBA. I think we've talked about if, like Andy mentioned, if the Rockets were the right fit. But I think, giving him this deal solidifies that they're truly bought in and, see value in him and feel like, he can be a project that they can really develop into someone more than just a shooter and who can play a role in this young core. Obviously, I don't think he'll start. He'll probably come off the bench. I don't know how many minutes he'll get, but I think it's a step in the right direction for him, and I'm looking forward to just see how Stephen Silas uses him in this system.
Will, what are your thoughts on it?
Can I be honest?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. To the distinguished gentleman of the University of Houston that I share this platform with. Well, before I say that, let me correct me if I'm wrong. It's a 4-year deal, but only the first year is guaranteed, correct?
Correct.
3 non-guaranteed years?
Yes.
To follow? Okay. When I saw it, the first thing I thought was, I've seen this before. And I'll tell you where. The Cavs 2 years ago signed Alfonso McKinley to a 4-year deal. Similarly, 4 years, I want to say $7.8 million league minimum salaries for 4 years. First year guaranteed, 3 subsequent non-guaranteed years. Shortly thereafter, they traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers for JaVale McGee. So they signed him to that deal to make money match. And then I thought, are the Rockets still trying to trade John Wall? And perhaps they needed some dollars to match. And this deal could be a part of it. I don't know. But to answer your question, what do I think? That's the first thing I thought of.
See, there you go. There you go. No. There you go, bringing basketball knowledge to the conversation.
I know. I had to get
well done, sir.
Yeah, my bad.
No, not at all. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Andy.
That's an interesting point because I saw someone bring it up where I think how many fully guaranteed spots do the Rocket or contracts do the Rockets have now?
The Rockets have to still waive 2 people.
Yeah,
get to the 15, not kind of the 2-way contracts. Yes. So
that might be more fuel of a fire to the point Will just brought up. It's interesting either unless they end up cutting one of the other players with guaranteed deals, which going down the list that we had, we struggled to find anyone that we put. Remember earlier one of the previous shows.
Yeah, I don't see with this deal, Armani's deal being guaranteed. I don't see the Rockets keeping Dante Exum. I don't see that happening now. I thought Exum had a chance to make the squad. Eric Gordon's ankle is still an issue. He stayed up after practice today, shooting up threes, jogging up and down the court after his 3-point sessions. At times, he didn't like he was ready. Eric ankle still giving problems, sometimes better than others. He is still day-to-day, according to Coach Silas. He and Daniel Tice are day-to-day, may not play Friday versus the Spurs. Dante Exum and the Rockets also, part of their announcement of transactions today, they also signed Marcus Foster to basically, I think, we were kind of joking, he'll be in the G League by Saturday. So that's what we were saying today at practice, waiting to talk to the Rockets. So we'll see about that. But I want to play this clip from Coach Silas, and then we'll get back to more discussion. But Will, very sly, man. Very sly there. You've been doing this You've been doing this a long time, man. Business.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me pull this up from Coach Silas. His thoughts on what Armani needs to do to improve and how much Armani has improved thus far.
What improvements have you seen in Armani Brooks this summer off season?
First of all, his commitment to his game. I'm not sure if that's an improvement or not, but he is so committed to being good and committed to the work. And he was here all summer, and it wasn't just on the court. It was in the weight room, and it was in the training room, and it was when we would go out to dinner. It was with the guys and stuff like that. So he really became a big part of our group over the summer, along with improving his body. His shot is NBA ready right now, and I think he also improved off the dribble some. He's attacking closeouts, so that sort of thing. The big step for him will be on the defensive end, and he knows it, and we're working on it, and he's making more plays defensively today than he was at the end of last year, so that's a step.
Big step defense. This gets me back to my thing. Armani should have come back to U of H for a senior year. Kelvin Sampson and staff would have made sure his defense would have been ready for the NBA. He'd have got plenty of shots, 3-point range, be a sniper in college, all those things. But he's been bouncing around, G League. He's still struggling with defense. He's improving. Armani wasn't a great defensive player at U of H. He was a solid rebounder and a decent defender. But when you got Corey Davis and Galen Robinson on the perimeter, creating havoc, Armani's defense wasn't that big of an issue. So, but hey, young man's got a guaranteed money coming in for this season. Good for him. He has room to improve. He knows that. Get better on defense individually and team defense. Get stronger. I'm just kind of curious what the Rockets are going to do with Eric Gordon. Because if Eric Gordon gets healthy, Rockets are going to play Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Eric Gordon. Then who? DJ Augustine. This is talking backcourt. Augustine. Will they play Armani Brooks now because he's guaranteed? Will they play Josh Christopher some minutes? How's it all going to play out? And then, I think Brandon Thomas wave house. I'm not going to wave house.
I've seen that. That's actually a pretty common sentiment.
Yeah, but House, this is his last year of his deal, so it's not expensive. So he won't be here next year. We can all see that. But how's Rockets going to divvy up the minutes in the backcourt? That's I'm kind of curious. Well, KPJ, Jalen Green. This is for all of you, and Brandon as well. Folks tuning in on YouTube. Had a colleague of mine a few days ago. He thought, and he still thinks, that the Rockets should not have drafted Jalen Green. They drafted the wrong Jalen, in his opinion. He thinks the Rockets should have drafted Jalen Suggs and kept Scoot at the off guard and had Suggs at the 1. What are your thoughts on that, Will?
That's interesting.
I'm giving you the big screen, Will. Everybody get ready for the big screen.
All right. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay. I can see the logic in that. Because Jalen Suggs, the 6'4", you have a 6'4" backcourt, a big per se backcourt, with KPJ at the 2, Jalen Suggs at the 1. A little more experience with Jalen Suggs going to Gonzaga for his freshman year, playing in the national championship game. So he's gotten to a somewhat high level of winning basketball on the collegiate level. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I wouldn't have been opposed to that at all.
James?
I mean, I disagree. I think Green was the right pick. If you were going to go with Suggs, I think they could have traded back if they were going to do that. But I think Green has the highest upside and a higher ceiling than Suggs. So I think Green was the right way to go. And I'm really high on his game and think he'll develop into a star in this league.
Andy?
Yeah, James hit all the points. I disagree with that take. I think the Rockets certainly did the right decision picking Jalen Green, like James said. I feel like just his ceiling is higher and kind of his body style too. He's a lot more lengthy and certainly as he develops, I mean, he's so young. You'd expect him to grow in much more aspects of the game. Barely being 19 years old, he's already shown that he can obviously his calling card, he can score in the NBA at the NBA level, but as he grows, as he develops his body more, I think he'll be a much more at least he has the potential to be a much more well-rounded overall player than Jalen Suggs, at least when it comes to ceiling-wise now. We're still based on it. They haven't even played a single minute in regular season basketball, but as of now, I think the Rockets did the right pick.
We'll see how it all plays out. Like I said, that's one colleague's, well, more than one local colleague has thought that. I'm not going to say it was just him. So what's done is done. So it doesn't really matter now. I mean, the Rockets pretty much gave indication prior to the draft, to me that and other folks that they were going to go this way and draft Jalen Green. I was pushed for Evan Mobley because I think, I prefer taller, skilled players than shorter, skilled players. And GMs agree with that sentiment, picking Evan Mobley to be the best rookie 5 years from now. Yeah. But, oh, yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on that? Are you happy about that? Do you agree with that?
I do. I like Evan Mobley. Had a chance to see him in person last Friday, and I liked what I saw. And the Cavs made a sneaky move today that would go under the radar to most, but they signed Ed Davis, veteran big man, 10-year vet from North Carolina, and he specifically is there to mold, to mentor, to tutor Evan Mobley. And he said it in his introductory presser. He said, this kid can make $500 million in this league. And I don't know that he's being facetious, because Evan Mobley has the skill set at 19 years old and his size to be a major, major force in this league for years to come.
I'm coming back, and then I'm going back to you for Solo. Then we're going to get back to Rockets. Who does Evan Mobley, if there is anyone, does Evan's game remind you of?
Right now, I don't know that I can compare him to anyone just yet. Small sample size. He's sitting for 3 games, or 6 games if you count summer league. So right now, I don't know that I have a valid, viable comparison for him at this time.
Okay, couple things. Kudos, Brandon brought it up. Kudos if you haven't watched it, listen to it. I was a guest on Locked on Rockets podcast with Jackson Gatlin, another U of H Cougar, by the way. Toss it out there, wherever I will. We're taking over H-Time Media, slowly but surely.
To be honest, that is true.
But we know we're doing that. I was also on Herb FM station out of Baltimore yesterday. And, of course, I was on the lunch break today with A.J. Jones here in town. So YouTube is all those things. But
can I try one thing up, Chris?
Yes, please do.
It's about Jalen Suggs. Going back to Jalen Suggs. I'm kind of biased because I had some interaction with him here at Ohio State. He was here at Ohio State on an official visit a few years ago. And from what I saw, I liked him a lot. So I've always kind of followed him from that perspective. So to hear that, but granted, I'm not going to say Jalen Green was the wrong move, but it would have been intriguing to have Jalen Suggs. And when I say he had an official visit, he was here with Ryan Day in the Ohio State football team. Yeah. He was a quarterback coming out of Minnesota. So he wasn't here as basketball. Jalen says he was here as a football player.
Understood. Brandon, you not hurt my feelings. You can go back in history about many more teams besides the Pistons thought about Darko Milicic as being a high talented pick. That's not hurt my feelings. That's a fact. A lot of people thought Darko had talent.
Darko? Wow.
It was a huge mistake, obviously. Plus, Larry Brown would have killed Melo. Melo would not have shined in Detroit. Y'all can have Melo and Larry Brown would not have meshed. And Melo has said publicly this summer that he was told that Detroit was going to take him. That's the first I've heard of that. He said that doing a podcast. Mm-hmm. But it shows you who made that pick. That wasn't Joe. No. Larry Brown didn't want Melo. Think about it. Let's not get this twisted, but I digress. Trade, rumor. I haven't seen it, but it was A.J. Jones tossed it out to me earlier today on the lunch break. Kyrie for John Wall. Who does it? Who says no? Andy, you first.
So, is there any way to say that both teams say no? I guess the Rockets should say no to that. And the reason I say that one, if you bring Kyrie Irving here, is there really a good space for him with, like we've already mentioned, that they're looking to move Kevin Porter Jr. into more of that point guard role. And it seems like that's going to be the dynamic, at least for this season, to kind of build with that backcourt with Porter and Green and go on from there. If you bring Kyrie Irving there, it certainly adds a weird wrinkle to that entire, process. And just overall, I mean, I guess Kyrie Irving wouldn't have any issues with getting vaccinated or that stuff here in Texas. So that would be one positive, but immediately you'd have to deal with all that, instant media scrutiny, a lot more drama that they try to avoid after they had to go through last season when James Harden wanted out. I mean, it's too much high price for really, I mean, minimal game. What would the Rockets get from getting Kyrie Irving? It's not like they're a Kyrie Irving player away from winning a championship, so there's no point to doing it if I'm the Rockets.
James?
Yeah, I think Andy hit it right on the head. Kyrie is certainly an upgrade from John Wall. The goal this season, in my opinion, should be to develop your younger players because you got a core that you feel good about, and then also just the off-court distraction with him in the locker room. It just could create a lot of unnecessary chaos and could complicate things. I like how Andy compared it to the James Harden situation. Steven Silas certainly doesn't need another year of that under his belt. So I don't like the deal for the Rockets. Brooklyn, I mean, you're getting John Wall, who could actually play, unlike Kyrie, because of the vaccination issue. But I still don't think Wall's a great fit up there either. So I don't think it would be a good deal for either side, in my opinion.
Will?
Yeah, it's kind of productive on the court. I don't think Kyrie will be a locker room issue, though. I mean, but Wall has 2 years left on this deal. Kyrie has 2 years left on this deal. So it's kind of a wash. What's the benefit for the Rockets to make that deal? It doesn't make sense.
See, that's why do it if your plan is for KPJ and Jalen Green to grow into the positions that they have and get better.
Right.
Andy with the great point. The Rockets are not Kyrie Irving away from winning a championship. Okay, there are many pieces away from winning a championship, and Kyrie won't make that difference. So next on that, okay. Anybody watch the Rockets and the 30 turnovers against Toronto?
30. I haven't had time to watch the Rockets in the preseason. That's the first time they had 30 turnovers.
30, yes, 30. Jalen had 7.
Jeez. Wow. Growing pains. And they're gonna have games like that during the regular season, especially if that's one of the drawbacks of going young, especially with that type of backcourt where, I mean, has Kevin Porter Jr. turned 22 yet?
Will?
No, I don't think so.
I think he's 21. Yeah, I don't believe so.
Yeah, like they're still so young, so you're gonna have games like that, especially whenever they have to. In December is gonna be ugly when they have to go on that long road trip. They have to play the top of the Western Conference. They're gonna have games like that. So, but 30 turnovers, jeez.
And Toronto was physical. Their defense, they were aggressive. Jalen commented on it. He was like, "No, man, we hadn't seen that defense yet. That was different. We weren't used to that. I wasn't used to that." He was honest, so it's okay. But youngsters, they got to deal with it, get used to the physicality, different type of defenses. That's another reason I'm not pushing for a lot of wins this year for the Rockets. Goal is get another lottery pick. James, we're coming to you in your sport now. The Hogersons are 5-1. Are you surprised, James?
No, just because of the strength of schedule, honestly. I am surprised how well the defense has looked. I thought they would be better. I did not think they'd be as dominant as they have been, especially on the road the past few weeks. They've really backed up what they were saying all off season, just about the level of depth and talent. So the defense has really surprised me in the production. But in terms of just the schedule, I expected Houston to have 5 wins at this point. I thought Texas Tech was the one game they'd lose. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
I'm not even going, Andy, I know you're surprised. This just popped in my head while James was speaking. Did y'all read about Big East basketball contemplating expansion?
I did see that.
I had it.
And Val Ackerman, commissioner of the Big East, I guess was part of the media day this week. This is the Big East. Big East is basketball conference. Okay, so this move would be for basketball reasons. Their contract with Fox ends in 2025. So about another 18 months or so time for it to begin renegotiations. Will, since you saw it, but Andy James, what team do you think was that the media suggested the Big East add for basketball?
It's got to be Memphis.
Gonzaga. Yes,
Gonzaga?
sir.
I was thinking American Athletic Conference. Oh, my bad. I'm thinking basketball only. I got confused.
So think about that. Will, James, Andy, basketball conference, adding Gonzaga, Spokane, Washington.
Thank you. The Big East.
For the Big East. Gonzaga to Providence is almost 3,000 miles. This is basketball, not football when you're playing once a week. So Val Ackerman said that because, she was asked about it. So media really pushed this idea. But she said geography would be a factor and a big factor. So good for her. Right. Because it would be complete, not to surprise me, but complete hypocrisy for the Big East, especially, but any conference, for basketball to add a member school nearly 3,000 miles away from other member schools. Come on. But Andy, you're on the right track for another team that Dana O'Neal from The Athletic suggested in her article about Big East expansion. It wasn't Memphis, but it was a school from the AAC. Go ahead, say it.
State. Wichita State's the other one.
Yes, sir. So what are your thoughts on that, James, Will, Andy, of the Shockers? Basketball school, they don't have football, going to the Big East.
Just off of that. Just off of that, it'd be a perfect fit right there, especially with the success that Wichita State has been able to have the last couple of seasons. Last year they I guess technically they won the American Athletic Conference, even though it was such a shortened season. And then even in 2019, they also won a share in 2019, correct, with Houston and Cincinnati, and back in the 2019-20 season.
I think so. No, that was Tulsa. The tri-year.
Right. It was Tulsa, but they finished fourth that season, and it was like a game of difference. So they've shown that they can build a strong basketball program, like you mentioned. They don't even have a football team, so similar to Gonzaga, they don't have to worry about that affecting their budget or having to run as independent or anything like that. Now, the reason I brought up Memphis is because, they're having a really down year in football, and you know that they get a lot of praise for their basketball program, like we mentioned with Penny Hardaway, the recruiting class he's been able to build. I think their basketball team, I'm thinking basketball only, would be a great fit in the Big East.
Oh, Andy. See, you're thinking on the court, but the Big East, a bunch of Catholic schools, think their stuff don't stink. They don't want anything to do with Memphis. Memphis, off the court, is still waiting to hear from the infractions committee whenever the hammer drops. But I can't, never say never, but I can't see the Big East taking Memphis for basketball. Will, what do you think about first Wichita State, then Memphis in the Big East?
Yeah, Wichita State I can see. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, half the travel that Gonzaga would require. And it's a basketball only school. So, I mean, and they have a comparable program. So, Ed Cooley in Wichita, Kansas would be funny. That would be interesting. As far as Memphis, I mean, for the reasons you said, now the upper crust of the Big East would not allow that. So, I mean, now granted, it'll be some fun Georgetown-Memphis matchups.
Yeah,
Patrick Ewing versus Penny, that would be great. Marketing, TV-wise, but no.
For the panel, What are y'all thoughts? Did you see it? Conference USA and the letter sent to Commissioner Oresco from the American Athletic Conference about what we call it, regionalization, and basically changing member schools, renaming conferences, basically having like a Midwest conference and then an Eastern conference. So Commissioner Oresco will be of the Eastern, whatever. But just that letter that from Conference USA Commissioner Judy McLeod to Michael Oresco about possibly let's just say an alliance. What about that, James?
I mean, I don't see it happening. Oresco straight out said on media day that the American's not interested in that kind of merger deal. And the letter was I was confused when I read it because it didn't make a lot of sense to me anyways, just with, I don't think it makes sense. It's in the best interest of the American to do any type of deal like that with Conference USA, because I think it just complicates things even more. And I think the American is better off trying to go, poach a few teams and bring them into the conference rather than do something where they, split up into two separate conferences and renaming and all that.
James, you said a bad word there. You said poach. Commissioner Oresco and some other coaches, they don't like that word when they're trying to get teams, schools to join that conference. They don't like the word poach. So shame, James. Shame. Andy, what are your thoughts on the letter?
Yeah, like James said, it's completely lopsided in favor of Conference USA if they could merge that alliance. And similar point that James said, I mean, Mike Oresco's stubborn. He's going to be stubborn to the very end. He doesn't for that move to happen. That'd be certainly a downgrade for the American Athletic Conference, at least in Oresco's eyes, and certainly with recent production from the teams, especially when you think of the way that the American Athletic Conference brands itself, like we're the Power Six and this and that. Yeah, I don't see that merger ever happening unless they even end up losing more teams. And even then, I feel like Mike Oresco would keep preaching Power Six until the conference was like bankrupt or something like that.
And funny how the dominoes work. Mike Oresco took a shot going back a few weeks after Big 12. The Big 12 said that they're Power 5 and we're G5. Well, if that's the case, then why did they take 3 of our schools? Craig Thompson, Mon West, said if the American is the best G5 out of all of us, then why they want 4 of our schools? Conference USA, similar words. Then why do they want some of our schools? Because the report is UAB is the top choice to go to the American. UAB and I think maybe Charlotte. So it's funny how all this works. Conference USA has been so reactive. They waited too late to do anything positive. They're a dead conference. They got schools trying to flee them left and right, just trying to get out of there as soon as possible. But I'm not sure what they're going to do. Rice, Houston school, I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to stay in Conference USA. I don't know if the Mountain West is going to come calling. I think the American probably could if they want to have a Houston market, but I mean, Rice doesn't move any needles for athletics. Baseball used to, and even that's on a down cycle. So we'll just wait and see. I'm just trying to hold on till U of H gets to the Big 12. That's all I'm trying to do. Will, your thoughts on Cincinnati and the proposal of, what is it, Andy? A new practice facility.
Athletics facility.
Athletic facility, yes. Thank you.
Athletics facility for the entire university.
Thoughts on that? And Will, are you going to put up money for that? They're going to come to you for some money to take care of that, bankroll that?
Not the Cincinnati, no. No.
It's Ohio, Will. It's Ohio.
I almost hit leave on that. I almost hit leave.
That's not the same thing.
I really almost hit leave studio on that.
It's not the same thing.
Ohio, come on, man. I graduated from the Ohio State University, not University of Cincinnati. I don't know. They're not getting any. No.
They're not getting any of your money. Okay.
No.
Okay. But your thoughts on the upgrades, the goals of Cincinnati to build a facility?
That's great.
What was your comment to me when I sent you that?
Yeah. Marcus Freeman will enjoy them next year when he takes over the football program from Luke Fickell. Yeah, that's great. Wes Mueller is there now as the first-year basketball coach, and he should benefit from them greatly. But Marcus Freeman should be great.
Who is finally going to turn Luke Fickell's head?
The University of Southern California.
You think so?
This relationship, sir.
You think so, huh?
Yeah. Here's why. And we all know it. It's relationship. Mike Bond is the athletic director at USC.
Good point.
Mike Bond is the athletic director who hired Luke Fickell at Cincinnati.
Yep.
Relationship.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Did the three of y'all see the article in USA Today /MSN about Power 5 schools lost a combined $1.75 billion?
Yep.
James, that's a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
If that I told you this, Chris, if that's for the Power 5 schools, imagine how the other Group of 5 conferences and everyone else is doing.
Well, one, I mean, the G5 lose money, but they don't make enough money to lose $1.75 billion. So
yeah, but it's all when you look at the percentage basis.
It's everybody taking a hit.
What did Power 6 lose? My fault.
Well, we'd have to ask Commissioner Resco that. I'm
just poking.
But that's all right. We poke here on FTS. But yeah, James, when's U of H football's next game?
They play, so they're off this week, and then they're home. Next Saturday is the 23rd, I think. Yeah, the 23rd, they're home against East Carolina. It's the homecoming game. They should take care of that one. The big one is on the 30th, which is 2 Saturdays from now, which is SMU, which could be 2 undefeated teams in the American going at it. So that's the one most people are looking forward to right now.
But is the game against East Carolina a trap game?
I mean, I think you obviously can't overlook any opponent, but I think Houston will take care of business, and they should win with relative ease. They have the better talent, the way they've been playing, especially on defense. Like I mentioned before, I don't think East Carolina will give them any trouble.
Question for Will, then similar question for James and Andy. Will, have the Buckeyes had the basketball team? Have they had their madness yet?
Not yet. I believe it's this weekend.
James, Andy, has there been any announcement of U of H having a madness for the basketball program?
No,
I have not heard anything.
Okay. Go ahead, Will.
Well, no, it's not going to be this weekend because they actually have a closed scrimmage against an unidentified school as of yet. So they actually travel this weekend for a closed scrimmage.
Okay.
So it won't be this weekend.
And I'm sure we can find that out. Somebody leak it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So yeah, but U of H be the same. I could find that out too if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But Will, James, Andy, U of H men's basketball coming off a Final Four. All kinds of attention, recognition, and they're not going to have, as far as we know, which is the fact we don't know is a problem, some sort of basketball madness to promote the upcoming season and introduce these players to the fans. Really? Is that what we're saying? Guys?
Yes, that's something. That's interesting that they won't capitalize on.
Now that's what we're saying. I remember you
froze there, but you're back now. So yeah, you froze, but you're back now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as of now, that's the case. We haven't heard. They certainly haven't made any official announcement off their account or anything like that. But I mean, maybe it's something they do down the line, because I remember before COVID, they did do an event similar to that where people could go and meet the players and even Calvin Sampson before the 2019-20 season. So maybe they decide to bring it back later down the road. But as of now, I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, adding to Andy's point, like I haven't heard anything. I expected them coming into the season to do something like the Final Four end of the year celebration they did last year at Fertitta, where, you know, they had all the players, fans could come. Sampson and a few of them spoke to the team and built hype because, like you said, this is a Final Four team. This is a team that has been on the rise, gained national respect. People expect big things. You know, most people now, you know, call U of H a basketball school. So for a team that's had the success that they've had and is expected to do well again this year, I'm surprised that nothing has been made official yet in terms of, you know, some sort of event to build hype for the season.
It's disappointing, especially considering that Fertitta Center is going to be full capacity. So it's not like it's not being done because of COVID concerns. So if you're having full capacity for the home games, invite your season ticket holders at least to come to a basketball madness to discuss, introduce the players to the fans, to the support. Have a student section, get the students hyped. Come on, this is U of H marketing. Come on, this is a basic thing. How is the school dropping the ball on this? And Andy, even if they announce something tomorrow or Monday for, you know, lead up to homecoming next Saturday, that's not enough notice. They should have been promoting this for weeks. Cougar fans, mark your calendars for October, whatever. Come to Fertitta Center to see the 2021-22 Houston Cougars men, both teams, men's and women's teams. Come on. You got a Final Four team on the men's side, a team that was on the women's side, the first of the first four out to get to the NCAA tournament, made to WNIT, got better players on this year's squad, and you're not going to promote them? Okay. On that note, each of y'all get solo screen. I'm going to ask y'all to let folks know how they can find you on the social web. Mr. Buckeye, you first.
Well, thanks, Kris, as always. Appreciate the opportunity. You can find me on social media at Will Gibson 7 on Twitter, Will Gibson 7 on Instagram, on Facebook. You can find me Will Knows, the Will Knows Facebook page, and www.wtgsports.com. Kris, are we still doing the guarantees? The Chuck Barkley guarantees? Because I have one if we are.
Yes.
All right.
We
have
are.
a guarantee.
Okay. Let me get it up here.
All right.
Let me see. Let me go solo to you, back to you, and then I'm going to put it down. All right, here we go. What you got?
I have a guarantee that, well, let me set it up. 6 weeks of Big Ten football. There have been 6 Big Ten freshmen of the year, and they've all been Ohio State Buckeyes. 4 times it's been quarterback C.J. Stroud, 1 time running back Travion Henderson, 1 time quarterback Colin McCord. I guarantee this week the Big Ten freshman of the week would not be an Ohio State Buckeye.
Guarantee.
Guarantee.
Is that because the Buckeyes are off?
That is because the Buckeyes are off.
Okay. Well,
we'll pick back up next week.
It's all good. Okay. Andy, the world is yours, man.
Yeah, one thing I did want to point out that it had slipped my mind, but this isn't the same as, you know, kind of a rally that'll kind of hype up for the season. But to their defense, the University of Houston men's basketball team is holding a tip-off dinner is the way they're describing it, but that's a much more formal setting where they're like they're going to be honoring a couple of the former players from the university's history, they're actually going to be honoring. I'm trying to find his first name, but I'm looking at Dwight Davis. That's the person they're going to be recognizing at the dinner. Kelvin Sampson's going to be there. All the current players would do it, but again, it's going to be a much more formal setting, actually on campus at the Hilton Hotel that they have there. But like you said, it's not the same as a rally or anything like that, but it's something. And when it comes to my Twitter, it's scrolling down the screen. They can find me on Twitter at @Yanez_5. Like I mentioned earlier, Pawd, Slama, Jama, Dayon and I had a new episode talking more in depth about the American Athletic Conference Media Day. We went in depth with comments that Ron Huey and Julia Blackshaw-Fair said yesterday at their availability during the AAC Media Day, which, by the way, give them credit. That was pretty cool how they had it where whenever the reporter got to ask a question, they got a couple of seconds on screen time. That was pretty cool. But and for sure, community impact newspaper. If anyone lives in the Pearland Friendswood area and wants to follow when it comes to Pearland City Council, Pearland ISD, events across the city, I'm your guy. So community impact newspaper. I guess James, go ahead.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead, James.
I'll finish. Okay. People can find me on Twitter, like it says at the bottom of the screen, at JDM2186, and all my work for the Cougar can be found on thedailycougar.com.
All right, and James, you'll be back next week to talk about, do you want to be back to talk about the U of H ECU football game?
Yeah, if I'm available. I love being on the show, so of course.
All right. And Andy, what were we going to say?
Yeah, put that screen. Will had guarantee. I'm gonna go back to the well with my own guarantee. Get the single camera.
You want it? You want solo camera?
Let's do it. Solo camera. We're going to the NFL. Actually, I'll go two guarantees, and they're kind of related. We'll go to the NFL with the Houston football team in the NFL. That I guess you can call them the professional football team. They are 10-point underdogs in Indianapolis for this Sunday. I guess we won't do it. I guarantee Houston covers the spread again. Davis coming off the best performance of the season. Houston covers the spread, and honestly, I'm gonna pick them outright. I think Houston gets their second win of the season against a shaky Indianapolis team that honestly, Carson Wentz had a good performance against Baltimore on Monday night, but I'm not buying it. Guarantee. And wins outright. Second, MLB playoffs. James, this is your thing. You might want to do your own guarantee. I think Houston, the Astros, win first two games at Minute Maid Park. They take a 2-0 series going back to Boston.
Is that a guarantee?
Guarantee. No McCullers, but we'll worry about that once we get to Boston.
James? Any guarantees from you? No guarantees?
Nah, I'm not as confident as Andy in terms of MLB playoffs with just McCullers being out. But yeah, I hope it's guarantees right, but we'll see.
All right. As always, I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review, HoustonRoundballReview.com, Houston Roundball Review on Instagram and YouTube. Clips from Coach Brooks, Armani, Jalen Green, Coach Huey, Coach Sampson. Coach Sampson gave a breakdown of the front court and the back court of the newcomers. His thoughts on that. Go check that out. And did you hear Coach's comments on Taze Moore?
Yeah, about the athleticism. He was speaking, he shouldn't be using his athleticism for dunk contests after practice. He should be using them to chase after loose balls and get rebounds. We mentioned it at the podcast. That's classic Kelvin Sampson right there, already hammering in one of the pillars for the UH basketball team.
Indeed. The culture. Gotta buy into the culture. Yeah. As soon as he does, that'll help Taze become a better player and the team be a better team. But as always, thank you guys for helping out on Folks Talking Sports. We will, let's see. I'm not sure. James, the game, U of H game, football is Saturday against ECU?
Yeah, Saturday the 23rd.
Okay, Andy, how are you looking? Let's see here. Rockets got a game. Well, yeah, next Friday, so can't do the show. How about next Thursday? Yes, Thursday the 21st is good.
Should work.
All right, James.
That should work for me.
Okay, and I'll reach out to Will to confirm that with him. Thanks to the folks tuning in, the Rocket fans who are everywhere. Rocket fans, tune in to the show. Tune in Saturday for some more Rocket talk. We're going to do that again. Let's talk Rockets. Should be 7 p.m. Central Time. But yes, we're going to do that, talking Rockets. And one of these days, we're going to do some Let's Talk Cougs just to get an idea of how many Coug fans participate in the stream. And y'all got to prove me wrong, because I bet you it's not going to be nowhere near as many Rocket fans. Rocket fans will outnumber the Coug fans 10-1. I bet you.
How many do you check for the Rockets live?
My Rocket view numbers average between 300 and 600.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we can match that for a live Coug talk.
Yep. Sad but true. But
maybe they
Will,
prove us wrong.
Hopefully. But Will, are you good for next Thursday for our show?
Yes.
Okay. See, next week we get into NBA season starting, so our schedule is going to be fluctuating with FTS. But Will, just follow us on Twitter. Let me put that up one more time for everybody to follow us. All four of us on Twitter, learning how to do all this fangled stuff here. But yes, keep up with us on Twitter for updates on the next show will be on the 21st, next Thursday. But after that, just stay tuned. Everybody, y'all be safe. Thank you very much. See you next week.